The Honourable Member for Newton North Delta debate.
Mr. Speaker, I will be sharing my time with the member, my colleague from St. Lambert. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to stand this morning to introduce our Opposition Day motion, one I hope all members of this House will join me in supporting. That in the opinion of the House, the temporary foreign worker programme has been open to abuse, resulting in the firing of qualified Canadian workers, lower wages and the exploitation of temporary foreign workers, and therefore the government should A. impose an immediate moratorium on the stream for lower skilled occupations, which includes fast food service and restaurant jobs, and B. request an urgent audit of the whole programme by the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by reminding my Conservative and Liberal colleagues about the purpose of the temporary foreign worker programme. It is to enable employers to hire a worker on a temporary basis to fill immediate skills and labour shortages when Canadian citizens and permanent residents are not available to do the job. Mr. Speaker, it might seem curious that I am choosing to highlight the purpose of the programme to both the Liberal and Conservative members of this House. But Mr. Speaker, the original version of the programme was actually created under the Liberals in 1973 by Pierre Trudeau. Then in 2002, again under the Liberals, Jean Chrétien grew the programme to include the category for low-skilled occupations. This Conservative government then expanded the low-skilled occupations category in 2006. In 2012, the Conservatives made it even more enticing for employers to overlook qualified Canadian workers by sanctioning lower pay for temporary foreign workers and introduced an expedited LMO approval process, which was no process. Mr. Speaker, the fact is that the Liberals created this programme, wrought with loopholes, and then made unwise changes that resulted in bigger holes. Then the Conservative government has continued that trend, so badly managing it that now not only are Canadians being overlooked for jobs in favour of cheaper labour via this programme, but being fired from jobs they have held for years. Recently, the media is awash with stories, but this is only the tip of the iceberg. The Alberta Federation of Labour has identified over 200 cases in which employers broke the rules of this programme last year alone. And Mr. Speaker, I was opposite the Minister for Employment and Social Development when he was responsible for immigration. And it was in that capacity that I first began to ask him about his plans to fix this programme. We talked about it in November of 2012, when it was discovered that HD Mining had hired 201 temporary foreign workers through this programme, when there was no shortage of capable Canadian miners who could have filled those positions. At that time, the Minister assured me he was reviewing the programme. I find myself wondering what that review is looking like these days. Then a year ago, 45 RBC employees in Toronto were set to lose their jobs after the bank brought in temporary foreign workers to replace them. At that time, I and my NDP colleagues appealed to the Minister, and he made some token changes to the programme in response. Still, there was no comprehensive review of the whole programme. Earlier this year, 65 iron workers at an oil sands project near Fort McMurray were fired in favour of temporary foreign workers. In Victoria, 3 McDonald's restaurants, all operating under the same owner, are accused of overlooking Canadian applicants in favour of temporary foreign workers. In Kelowna, Dairy Queen is accused of taking hours from Canadian employees and delegating them instead to temporary foreign workers. In Weyburn, Saskatchewan, after 28 years at Brothers Classic Grill and Pizza, Sandy Nelson was suddenly fired in favour of temporary foreign workers. In BC and Alberta, temporary foreign workers brought in to work at Tim Hortons, and they were made to reimburse their employer in cash for their overtime pay. In Labrador, 24 temporary foreign workers were housed in a single apartment complex. And in Nova Scotia, a business owner was charged with 56 counts of fraud last year for paying temporary foreign workers as little as $3 an hour. Mr. Speaker, these are but a few of the many hundreds of examples of this Conservative government's complete mismanagement of the temporary foreign worker programme. When challenged time and time again, the Conservatives feign outrage and surprise, as though it is somehow not the programme they are supposed to be running that is allowing for those egregious abuses. In 2009, the Auditor General told this government that its process for issuing LMOs does not ensure quality and consistency of decisions. There is no follow-up to verify that employers are complying with the terms and conditions agreed to when they were issued the labour market opinion, such as wages and working conditions. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, the LMO component of this programme is deeply flawed. After 2 years opposite this minister, I have had more opportunities than I can count to observe the unbelievable, erroneous distribution of labour market opinions by this government. Mr. Speaker, the mess of the LMO granting process alone warrants an audit. When I was first handed the immigration portfolio, I assumed the LMO process was thorough and accurate. It certainly seemed that way at face value. It didn't take long, Mr. Speaker, before I realised that something was drastically wrong. Something is wrong. The LMO granting process is in dire need of an overhaul. How else are fast food restaurants in urban cities where youth unemployment is sky high getting LMOs to bring in temporary foreign workers? Mr. Speaker, there is no oversight. How can employers state on their applications they will pay X number of dollars per hour and in actuality pay several dollars less? There is no accountability. This is driving wages down in Canada. This is displacing Canadian workers. This is preventing Canadian workers from being considered for entry-level jobs, and this is exploiting temporary foreign workers, Mr. Speaker. This is not okay. In 2011, the Conservatives pretended to fix the programme by creating a blacklist for employers who abuse the programme. It was all for show. That list was blank until this month, when, to save face, the government scurried to add the names of 3 employers on a Sunday afternoon. The Conservatives talk a good game. They keep promising to get tough on employers who abuse the programme, and yet the programme keeps growing and they keep issuing LMOs and reports of abuse keep pouring in. The fact is, this government has grown the temporary foreign worker programme to outrageous proportions. In the lowest skilled category alone, the number of temporary foreign workers in Canada has increased by 698% since the Conservatives came into power. To date, this government has refused to do anything to fix this programme in a substantive way. Why should Canadians believe them now? Mr. Speaker, the Parliamentary Budget Officer has said there is very little evidence of a skills shortage in Canada, and yet the Minister goes on and on about a skills mismatch in this country, his way of justifying the expansion of this programme and ignoring experts who know more in this field. Between 2007 and 2010, Dominique M. Gross of Simon Fraser University from my beautiful province of BC studied the process of hiring temporary foreign workers in BC and Alberta. She found that there was very little real evidence of shortage in many of the low-skills occupations, but they were being fast-tracked nonetheless. Her study concluded that the flood of temporary foreign workers in the country added a cumulative 3.9 percentage points to the unemployment rate in Western Canada. Economist Arthur Sweetman agrees with her conclusion. Quote, "The Canadian unemployment rate would probably be going down a little faster if the temporary foreign worker programme wasn't quite so robust." And Christopher Worswick, an economist at Carleton University, feels especially badly for young people in all of this. The kind of jobs that are more likely to be filled by temporary foreign workers were traditionally first jobs for many young Canadians and might have supported them while they pursued post-secondary education. If employers are able to bring in temporary foreign workers rather than raising wages to induce young Canadians to take these jobs, or perhaps move to regions where jobs exist, this could mean that young Canadians may face even greater difficulties in becoming established in the labour market and accumulating the skills they need to move into higher skilled occupation. And that is the real reason we are here today, Mr. Speaker, to protect jobs, not only for my teenage grandchildren, but for everybody's grandchildren, nephews, nieces, children. So therefore, I am calling on this government, and I'm reminding my honourable colleagues to do the right thing, that the unemployment rate among young people have risen with a high school education is at 15.5% in my home province of BC. This programme, as it's being managed, is not going to bring that number down. We are asking for an immediate moratorium on the stream for low-skilled occupations, no new applications for fast food, hospitality, cleaning services, food processing, general labourers and working a cash register. We want this programme fixed first, Mr. Speaker, actually fixed, and we're also asking for an urgent audit of this programme by the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals and Conservatives have been in charge of this programme since its inception, and it's a mess. We must clean it up, we must go forward and use this programme as it was intended for temporary labour shortages. I look forward to standing with my colleagues from all parties of this House in unanimous support of this motion. The evidence is clear. This cannot continue.